Renewed fears have been expressed that the Ennis 2040 DAC won't be able to pay off its €10 million loan. The loan in question was approved by elected members of Clare County Council in June 2021 by a margin of 23-5. At this week's meeting of Ennis Municipal District, Clarecastle Fianna Fáil Councillor Tom O'Callaghan requested a report on the total costs incurred by or on behalf of the company since its establishment. Repayments on the loan are interest-free for the first 3 years, with repayments beginning this year. Clare FM's Seán Lyons has been speaking to the Clarecastle Sinn Féin councillor Tommy Guilfoyle, who spoke in support of the motion, but he first caught up with Councillor O'Callaghan about why he brought it forward.
This broadcast package on Clare FM is funded by the Local Democracy Reporting Scheme.
Well, I suppose recently we've had a lot of questioning of the public at large, and we've seen the recent protests. Well, by the way, it was very upsetting for everyone, and the reason is that people are now asking questions right across. What are we doing as a government? How are we controlling everything we're doing? Because at the end of the day, we're using taxpayers' money in a lot of cases, and we're saying, are we getting value for money? So it really has come back to me many, many times. I looked at the company of the formation of 2040 DAC, which is before when I became a councillor, but within that it clearly stated that they were using a loan of a 10 million, and that money was going to be used to further benefit the town with projects going forward.
And worth acknowledging that was approved by all members at the time.
Yeah, and I would imagine I would have actually supported myself. I thought it was very forward thinking, because either way we want to drive our town. If you get the capital town going, the rest of the county will benefit. But the one thing that I would always say, and I always look at that, is how are we going to pay it back? Because you have to remember, if you don't pay it back, somebody's going to have to be on the foot for that bill. And the issue I have is back in when the letter was given, which is really the formal letter to requesting the 10 million, and it was shared with all the elected members at the time, and it clearly stated that the 10 million would be repaid from investments, commercial investments from its, I suppose, its purchases at the time within Ennis 2040. The issue I have is very clear, is we actually have no income whatsoever. We have spent significant amount of money. We all know about Parallel Street, we all know about the Quay, we now know about Francis Street, there's a hold up, and yet there is no money actually coming in. So the issue is very simple, is that we're looking at potentially now 650,000 a year, and we have no income to pay that, and that is a real concern for me.
You have of course been very vocal in opposition to the proposed developments on Harvey's Quay and on the Abbey Street car parks. Those would have been mixed use developments, some of which would have been commercial. Is it hypocritical to ask where the money's coming from and also oppose commercial developments that the Ennis 2040 has put forward?
We'd never have opposed whatsoever. Like, what we're saying is we have a physical infrastructure within our town, and we're saying is it money well spent? And the issue I keep coming back to is we know that there is a lack of adequate parking within our town. You know, at the very early stages there was actually an area where it was earmarked for a multi-storey car park at the Temple Gate, and suddenly that, you know, and the Chamber of Commerce is fully in support, suddenly that was removed. And I'm asking the question, why? We have our older properties I'd like to see rejuvenated. Now that there is a grant system coming in, we had a presentation this week which is absolutely fantastic. I'm excited about that. So let's turn all those buildings back into residential. The issue I keep coming back to is we have spent significant money on projects that are now not going ahead. And the problem I keep coming back to is how come I can't get detailed breakdown of all that expenditure? It clearly states in the minutes that were adopted back in 2021, and what it says is that the officer of DAC will report directly to Chief Executive and elected members. Well, now I am an elected member, so I'd like to see a detailed breakdown of all expenditure, because we're talking about significant money. If we do not address, is this been a wise investment or not? If a mistake has been made, we learn from those mistakes, but we cannot continue. The end result of this is it's money that we're never going to get back. And what happens is services get pulled. I mean, as you well know, and I've highlighted, I'm fighting to get like breadcrumbs off a table. Our budget was reduced in our road section. Like, these are all elements that is really annoying the general public at large. So we need to get a handle on this. And this is an example of trying to get a fix of where we are right now. Now, if it's a case, and let's be very clear, if you can't pay back a loan, in my personal opinion, in business for many, many years, it's insolvent. It has to be addressed.
We heard as recently as a number of months ago from the interim COO of Ennis 2040 expressing confidence that the loan will be paid back. What was your assessment of the response you got today, and did it give you any confidence?
Well, you see, I would obviously know the officer and have great great respect for, and of course doing his best to look at the overall project. But the end of the day is, does it all add up? Like, you have to remember, and again, it is a concern to me, we're now going into the housing area. Now, I want houses, we all want homes, but my concern is, are we actually getting involved in a private sector? Because there are already, we do have developers. We have a fantastic section within Clare County Council, fantastic team. I walk past them. So why can't we work with what we already have? So again, I'm going to come back to, on the accounts, it shows we have, fixed assets of only 9,000. Sites have been bought. What is going to happen? For example, Francis Street at the moment, there is a problem there. We're all very much aware of it. So why are we just leaving it there and not generating money? So an urgent review needs to happen. We collectively then all together working in the best interests of our town going forward. But if you can't pay back money, it has to be addressed.
Is it fair to say that what you're looking for most of all is engagement, is that open dialogue?
Yeah, I think it's a change of mindset. I think we have to really look at our fantastic town that we have. I actually think that we're in an opportunity here like never before to rejuvenate. We've seen what has happened, for example, the new development of the plaza. But you have to remember, if we were able to duplicate within our own town, create those extra car spaces, what is happening there will happen in our town. We have wonderful retailers. They have lovely identity, but they do need help. Like, bear in mind, we're after increasing our rates by 8%. We as elected members had to vote on that because budgets have to be balanced. But if you're paying out money with no money coming in, what's going to happen? We're increasing again. And who's suffering are the existing businesses. We've got to address that, and we need to move forward in a very collective manner. But let's be very clear, a 10 million loan has been drawn down. I can't see any repayment capacity right now for that loan. That's a real concern for me.
Councillor Tommy Guilfoyle, thanks for speaking with me this afternoon. At today's Ennis MD meeting, the April meeting, you joined Councillor Tom O'Callaghan's call for transparency on the Ennis 2040 DAC and its finances, and particularly looking for clarity on how the €10 million loan taken out in 2021 will be repaid. Why did you decide to support that call?
Well, 100% I support that call, because public money is public money and we have to manage it and look after it the best way we thought. We see the fluholic nature of the children's hospital, of bike sheds, of public money being squandered. I read a report the weekend that we're the worst ran economy in the world when it comes to the expenditure of public money. So here we are sitting on a 10 million company that is legally owned by us but is controlled by a separate board. But nonetheless, that's all public money. It's a 10 million loan by the council given to this DAC for the DAC to do what it has to do. How do we pay that back, Seán, is a legitimate question. And I think every councillor would agree that if we haven't got a way of paying it back, we have a massive problem. So we need a bit of clarity from the DAC on how it's going forward. I welcome the reply. The Chief Executive is reviewing all the DACs and including the Ennis 2040 DAC. So in his review, I wait for the outcome of that review. But I would hope that we see as councillors a way forward in paying back the loan.
And a point made by Councillor O'Callaghan was that given that the mixed-use developments, which were highly controversial, have now been scrapped out altogether in recent times, there is no clarity as to what commercial developments will be part of the Ennis 2040 strategy. So again, no clarity as to where the revenue will come from, and that's what you'd like to see. You'd like to see where revenue is actually supposed to be generated from as part of this strategy.
I would love to see in the review that if the DAC remains, if that DAC remains viable and it remains and it has a future and a way forward, that service level agreements are in place where we can monitor what's going on there from the outside, and also that it's a very strong linkage between itself and our SPCs, so that issues from the public can be brought to the Director of Services' attention, quickly and promptly. So 100% the DAC needs to be working if we're keeping it, and if it's not working, we need to know and we need to realise and find out how we're going to pay back that 10 million note.
You spoke about the waste of public money, and that's something that we've heard a lot about in the last week during the fuel protests. Obviously a lot of public anger about that. Have you heard from members of the public, your own constituents, people you represent, about Ennis 2040? Are people concerned about the money being spent on that?
People were. Ennis 2040 was a major bone of contention with the public up till now, and it still is now, because people have asked how we're going to pay it back.
An election issue.
Well, it was a big election issue, but people are delighted to see the very controversial projects taken out of it. That's a massive step for our town, that our town can move together in a more united fashion, because that was divisive. Them projects were divisive, and I can tell you, Seán, the majority of people didn't want them. Yes, you would have voices say they wanted them, but the majority, a vast majority of people didn't want the 3 projects, the post office field and the 2 car parks, been changed in the manner they were reported to. The DAC is still an issue, because people are now more aware of the expenditure of public money. The bike shed, the children's hospital, that has brought public money or expenditure to the front of people's minds. The protests at the weekend and across the last few weeks and days, the protests in Ennis on Sunday was all about the cost of living crisis. Our government spends money willy-nilly on some things, but can't deal with a cost of living crisis in a manner that the people will find fitting. So money is very important in this current climate, and the people want to see where it's going, and they'd like to see it going to better places.
This broadcast package on Clare FM is funded by the Local Democracy Reporting Scheme.